also would like to thank Dan for being a great president and mentor this past year.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. So thank you, Dan. And of course, I'd like to thank everyone here in attendance. It's an honor for me to take on this role, and it's an honor that you're here all with me tonight. Also honoring me and Dan as an outgoing president. So I greatly appreciate it, and I look forward to this year coming up. I did prepare a speech, much greater than Dan's speech from last year. But no, I've been working on it for many hours and many days and weeks, and last night I was looking to rework it and tweak it a little bit, and quite honestly, I just wasn't feeling it. Like it just wasn't, I didn't feel like it was coming from the heart. And so I scrapped it. So I'm kind of going to wing it a little bit tonight. Because what I wanted to really talk about real briefly over this last year, what I learned, and that is what's at the heart of Rotary. What's at the heart of Rotary? So I want to start with last year, a year ago, where I was here when Dan was going to be president. I was going to be president-elect. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But if Terry remembers, Terry pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I have a book for you to read." So I said, "Oh, thank you." And a few weeks later, one of the Rotary meetings, he brought the book, and it's a rather thick book. But it's called The First Rotarian, The Life and Times of Paul Percy Harris, founder of Rotary. And it's an extensive, very detailed book about his life. And I did read it, Terry, so you'd be proud of me.
How many trees did he plant?
I don't know how many trees he planted, but I do know, to prove I did read it, there is a chapter in here that starts off where on his many travels, do you remember this, Terry? He actually came by and visited Elyria, Ohio.
Yes.
And that's in the book, one of the chapters, because a friend of his who was in charge, or kind of heading up disabled children, lived in this area. So and I think in the late 30s, he visited Elyria, Ohio. So I did read the book, Terry. But yeah, the speech I prepared really was a great speech, but it was going to be about my journey in Rotary last year and tied in with Paul Harris's journey. But again, I just wanted to just talk about a few things that I just learned real quick over the last year from this book. First thing is that Rotary obviously started at a restaurant in Chicago with a buddy of his named Sylvester Shield. And basically, his idea was, let's get a bunch of businessmen together where you're an exclusive person, and basically, when you need something done and I need something done, we will use each other and basically help our businesses together. And we all know that Rotary kind of started with this concept of really business relationships and building people together. And it's still effective today, but as we all know, it's not one of the main things of Rotary, and it's definitely not at the heart of Rotary, although it was there at the foundation. And also we know that Paul Harris, his goal in Rotary was also fellowship and friendship. If you didn't know, part of the reason I learned from the book was that he grew up in a small town and bounced around quite a bit in his life. And when he was in the city of Chicago, it was just a much too large city for him. He just never felt at home, couldn't find his place. And he, with his business workings, realized that there were a lot of other men from small towns in Chicago that didn't feel at home either. And so part of the thought of not only the business relationships, but he was really focused on friendship and fellowship. And that, of course, grew very rapidly. Rotary began to really flourish. And interesting, though, if you didn't know, he was not president for the first couple of years. He refused to be president, stood in the background, because his goal really was to actually be social, get people involved, build friendships and fellowship. It was a huge part of Rotary at the beginning. But obviously, even though it's still a great part of Rotary, it's not the heart of Rotary. Well, 3 years in, Paul Harris decided that it's time to be president. And so he became president because the fellowship and the building of Rotary had started. The organization got to like 50 members, and he knew it was time to do the real mission, and that was to start his service to the community. His goal was always to make it a service organization. And so, third year he became president, he started his work. One of the first things he did was get public toilets in downtown Chicago. That was necessary. So, kind of interesting that he knew that goal all along, but it took him a while to get things going. Over the years, Rotary adopted service above self as a motto. The four-way test came into being, and we know how important service, of course, is to Rotary. Also, interesting little fact I thought about was that this was in the 20s and 30s, so the decision to be a service to others and a commitment to others and helping your fellow man, it wasn't just a thing to do. I mean, it was a necessity. You know, he grew up at the beginning of World War I, went through the Great Depression, World War II. The four-way test actually came from a businessman who, remember, this is Chicago, so not a lot of great dealings were going on, not a really healthy city to do business in. And that four-way test became actually a part of Rotary because that businessman said, we have to fix the way we do things, and the four-way test came into being. So again, how important that was, but that really was not at the heart of Rotary either. What I learned from this book at the heart of Rotary was really the heart of Paul Harris. He was the heart of Rotary. He was a man who dedicated his life to serving others. He refused recognition. He refused, in his later years, he actually told the foundation and others and all the clubs, no plaques, no busts, no paintings. At his funeral, he said, no flowers, give it to the foundation. He was an amazing man who, again, did everything he could to help others and make it about him, not about himself, but about everyone else. And then I want to just kind of read something real quick. At a convention in Boston in 1933, one of the few times he actually spoke and kind of got some recognition, he said this: Rotary, in a final analysis, is a way of life, of a good, natural, wholesome, friendly way of life. The world is full of potential Rotarians who are not Rotarians in fact, but if you have love of your fellow man in your heart, my friends, you are a potential Rotarian. And I think that speaks to a lot about Paul Harris and Rotary. And I want to talk about real quick our trip to Honduras, because even this evening I've heard a few people talk about the future of Rotary, where we're heading, where we're going, and not looking at the past. We talked a little bit about where we're going, and the times have changed. It's just a different society, different culture, different city of Amherst, and how do we get people to join Rotary and be members? And it's just not the same as it maybe used to be. You're not attracting people the way you used to. How do we change? What do we do? And I just think that it's important that we go back to the root and go back to the heart of Rotary. And I think if we focus on that, I think in years to come we will continue to do great things as a club in Amherst. And one thing that happened last year was, in Dan's vision, was to take a trip to Honduras and actually come up with a project that we can actually do good work. Not that we don't do good work all the time, but really good work. And traveling to Honduras, I just have to say, it's amazing to me when I met the Rotarians in Honduras, how truly they did exemplify the heart of Paul Harris, where things in hospitals and schools and the good works of the community did not get done unless Rotarian took on. So it was an amazing trip. And I just want to thank Dan and Jeremy for allowing me to participate, Jeremy for organizing, and Dan for the vision to do that. I look forward to continue that work. I think it's one of the great things that we're doing. I want to make sure we continue to do that. With that being said, I'd like to call Dan up for a moment, because I'd like to recognize him for something that really is important to me and I spoke about tonight. And that is, Dan, I really think that throughout the last year, you really did exemplify the heart of Paul Harris. Not only the trip to Honduras and the work we've done there, but even just in the pizza portfolio the other time, where Dan refused to take any money, even though he was a pizzeria that was giving to the cause, he refused to take any money. Didn't even put his name on the voting sheet to win an award for the pizza. So I looked very hard for a recognition or award to give you. And there's many in Rotary. You go on the website and look at many things, and there's many essays and things you can apply for, distinguished award and work. I just couldn't find anything. So I had one made. I probably infringed on some copyright or trademark laws, but doesn't matter. So, from what I talked about tonight, Dan, I really want to present to you an award that is from me to you, that is the first of its kind, and it's the Paul Harris Heart Award, presented to Dan Nutt, June 21st, 2019. So with that, I look forward to the year coming up. I look forward to all the work we're going to do. I'm humbled to be your, I guess, president now. I'm official, right? So I'm humble and I'm gracious and I'm grateful and hopefully do great things. So thank you, Terry, for giving me the book. Thank you to everyone here for all your hard work and your dedication over the years. Many of you have been here a long time. And you've done, yeah.
Pass it on.
And you've done some great things. I do wish Mike Von Gunn could be here. Again, he's on a cruise. But Terry, I did follow in your footsteps and rode in here in my year as president. And hopefully on Monday, is Mike back? We'll find out. When Mike gets back on Monday or maybe the next week, we're going to give him this book and see if he can continue the tradition. So thank you, Terry. With that, I guess I'm going to conclude my remarks. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, Dan, again.